Hey beautiful people, it's Mizko here. Now before we jump into this video, I want to let you know I do have a bit of the sniffles, so my brain isn't really working to its full potential. But rest assured, I'm still going to walk you through step by step, and by the end of this video, you will have learned how to create this beautiful infinite loop animation in any Webflow project. So let's get right into it, guys. Now here you can see in Figma, I've created a very simple design. So let's just turn off these grids. We've got a bit of a header up here, right? So let's turn this one on. You've got a header and the logo has around 40 pixels sort of spacing up on the left, top and bottom. And on the right, there will also be 40 pixels as well. And then in the content area, you have a heading that is got 40 pixels spacing on the left, and then it is perfectly centered vertically as well. So let's get right into it, guys. Let's make sure when we get started, we want to make sure that every single page, if we want to create new pages, that all the body tags, all these pages have a consistent background. So what we want to do is head over to the selector, make sure body is selected, head over to selector, make sure body all pages is selected. This will apply the styling across all pages. We want to make sure that the font size on all body is 16 pixels, and then we want to give it a height of 1 EM. I'll do another video about this another time, but if you just follow along, you'll be fine. Now also, I just want to use my very own font in this project, so where I'm going to select Mizko and 900 black. You can choose whatever font you want. And then we want to make sure that the background color is correct. So let's grab the background color and let's chuck it onto this body. And then I also want to add this colored gradient over here in the bottom right corner. So I'm going to add another image on top, boom, and give it a negative positioning on the top, not repeated, so it doesn't repeat itself, and there we have it. So we've got the body selected. Perfect, looking good, looking snazzy, looking schmack. All right guys, I'm going to turn this off, and then what we want to do is we want to add a section for the header. So let's go ahead. Command E if you're on a Mac, or Control E if you're on a Windows. Then we want to put down a div block and give it a class of section. And then making sure that this section is still selected. If you hit Command E again or Control E on a Windows, you can hit div and it would automatically nest it for you. So guys, if you appreciate this really quick hack and trick, so you don't have to go in and go add, what do I need to add, drag and drop, and making sure it's like actually nested. This is a really streamlined trick for you to make sure everything goes smoothly. Then we want to make sure that we have a section. We want to give the section a container inside, because this is going to add all the measurements and padding and sizing, so everything is like centered on the screen and everything is within this contained area. So to remind you guys, we have 40 pixels on the left, 40 pixels on the right, 40 pixels beneath it, and then 40 pixels on the right hand side as well. So on this container, we will give 40 pixels on the padding, but I know you're thinking, wait Mizko, you just said you don't use fixed pixels. So yes, we don't. So how do we want to do this? What you want to do is you want to go 40 divided by 16, because 16 is the base font size on the body, and it will pick that up. So there will be 2.5 16s into 40. So you would want to just simply go 2.5 M, right? And then you want to go 2.5 M on this side, 2.5 M on the bottom, 2.5 M on the right hand side. And this will apply to all containers now, because I've applied the styling to all containers. Then inside the container, I'm going to put down an image, and the image is going to be Mizko. So you can see we already have a beautiful header. You can see it scales gracefully. There we go. Beautiful. Now what we want to do is make sure body is selected. Why? Because we're going to add another div, another section. So because you selected body, it will automatically nest it under body, and it won't go inside this section. So let's give this section a class of section. Let's add another div inside this section and give it a class of container. And once again, because you have applied the stylings from this container with 2.5 Ms, this one will also give you all that spacing as well. So what we want to do is also add a heading inside, right? Heading, and let's just give this heading a class of heading 1. notice that all the spacing is consistent and all consistent. So everything's looking beautiful. So let's take a look at what is the size of this heading, 170. All right, so let's make sure that we've got the class selected. Let's make sure we do the calculations. 170 divided by 16 is 10.625. So 10.625 EMs, whoops. There we go. And let's just make sure that we've got the weight selected. And then the height is 1M. So the reason why 1M works on this is because this 1M is getting the measurements from the size itself. So 1M is actually equivalent to 10.625 over here. So it actually perfectly allocates that spacing for it. Now, we'll tinker with the coloring afterwards. Let's just make sure we get everything correct first. Now, obviously, without even telling you guys what this entire sentence or statement is about, you obviously know it's about gently smashing that like button if you appreciate these videos, because it does help this channel grow. So let's just go ahead and select that text and let's just pop it in here. Now, what you might realize is that this text is being wrapped, right? What we want this to do is we want this text to be all on one line, and it's always going to be looping like this. So what we need to do is we need to actually make sure that this text, this heading 1, scroll down to your text breaking section. So under typography, open up more type options. In breaking, set to no wrap. Now this will force this entire heading to always be on one line unless you add a break, a line break. So in HTML, that is what you define as open bracket, BR, close bracket. So that as long as you put a line break, then it will break it. But if it's no wrap, it will never break, right? So then what we want to do is we want to duplicate this heading. Now I'll explain to you guys why we need to duplicate it afterwards. Now what we want to do is we want to make sure that these two headings are on the same line as well. So they're both just going like that together. Now how do we do that? Well, we need to make sure that we're wrapping them both inside a div with the flex box. So let's add a div and let's give this a class of heading wrap. And let's, oh, my mouse is just dying. And then let's put the headings inside. And then what we want to do with this heading wrap is we want to give it a flex. And this is similar to auto layout in Figma. So remember when you auto layout something in Figma, you can choose a direction. Well, this is similar to flex. You can choose the direction as well, horizontal, vertical. And what we want to do is we don't want to wrap it. And now you can see that it is all on one line because we're flexing it and we're auto laying out it on one line. Perfect. So let's close that. And then what we also want to do is we want to give this heading, because if you saw that there was some spacing, we need to add a space between the two. So let's just close that and let's just give it a bit of spacing. I think it was heading 1 and we're going to give it a margin of 0.25 em. I think that should be just enough. So let's take a look at that. Perfect. Looks perfect right there. Okay, so we're getting there, Now you might have noticed this text is sort of going off the page and we can see this page and we can scroll horizontally. Now how do we prevent that from happening? What we need to do is we need to go ahead, we have to go to the container itself and we need to go overflow hidden. So what this does is it will actually mask off everything within this div. So if we go back over, you can see that it won't let me scroll across anymore. It will simply mask that and it will lock that screen and it won't let me scroll further. What we want to do next is we want to now vertically center this heading. All right, so what we want to do is we want to go ahead and click on this section, and actually we'll go do it on the container itself. And what we want to do is we want to go, this container is for the heading wrap, and we want to make sure it is 100% of the viewport height. Now what this means is if you follow this blue line, you are now telling this container to fill up 100% of the actual viewport of the height, so the window size itself. But because we have this header here that is on top of this section, this space is being replicated down here. So it makes up for that space down here. So what we need to do is we need to go ahead and make sure that this section is now a level above of this section. So it doesn't push it down, it's actually sitting on top of it. So what we can do over here is give this section, actually give it a class first, so is the heading. We want to give it a position of fixed, right? So it stacks above. Give it a Z index of 10. So on this as well, vertically on inside. All right, so things are looking good. Things are looking good. It's getting closer. We're getting there. Now what we want to do is now let's focus on actually getting that animation going, because everything has been set up. We'll refine the styling for this afterwards, because I want to make sure that you understand how we do these transitions. So let's do a recap, guys. We have two sections. First section is for the header. We have a section, right? And then we have a container inside, which generally will do all the spacing and keeping things contained. And then inside that, we have an image, right? We've also positioned this section as fixed because we want to make sure that it is fixed at the top. And we also want to bring it a level above this content, so then the viewport height does not cater for this when we're trying to flex this 100%. Now, yes, this can be overwhelming if you are new to Webflow or new to web development, but bear with me. The more you practice this stuff, the more you try it yourself, the better you will understand it. Then the second section is dedicated to this actual heading. So we have a section for the heading, and inside that we also have a container, which is giving us the spacing, right, on the left-hand side. And then we're also vertically aligning everything inside this container, all the content vertically in the middle, and it's also within the 100% viewport height. Now, inside that, we have that heading. However, we have a heading wrap that will wrap these two headings because we want to flex it, auto layout these two headings, and make them side by side. Now, the reason we are doing this is because when we have, I'm just going to grab 2 pens, right? And imagine this actual, this circle that I'm in is actually the window. What we're actually trying to do is we're trying to have that heading come through, right? And it will show the first heading once. So gently smash that like button, it comes through. And then the second one is also going to come through. And the moment that second one stops, gets to the same point as where this one started, what we are actually going to do is we are going to tell the machine, or tell Webflow to reset itself, right? Reset back to this position within 0 seconds. So it will literally just blink and it will come back, and then we'll loop that animation again. So what's happening is this will then create that illusion of the fact that this animation is going forever. But really, it's just 2 elements. So we have a starting point, the second heading, it moves, right? It moves and it gets to the exact same point. It will reset within 0 seconds, right? And then it will start again. And it will just keep doing that. And then that will create the illusion that this is a forever loop. But really, it's just 2 lines. Now let's go ahead and create a transition. So what we want to do is click on the lightning bolt, which is the interactions. On page trigger, so when the page loads, we want to create a new animation. So click on action, start an animation, and we want to click the plus icon over here. Now let's call this scrolling animation. And what we want to do is we want to hit the plus icon, right? And we want to make sure that the heading wrap is actually selected, okay? So the heading wrap is selected, and we want to select transform move. What we want to do is we want to set this this item here as the set as initial state. So when the page loads, this heading on the initial state, so as default, we want the x-axis to be at 0 pixels. So we're just telling Webflow, this website, that when the page loads, this heading needs to stay where it is right now, okay? Then we add another timestamp, right? And we're gonna move this entire heading wrap, so everything inside this heading wrap on the x-axis, right? So we're gonna move it and scroll all the way across. My browser, my monitor isn't large enough to show you guys and actually scroll enough. So if you just watch this, if I just continue scrolling, all the way to, I believe, 2600, right? You can see that this is the second gently smash the like button. So what we want to do is this 2600, I'm going to keep moving it until we get it to a point where it is exactly where the previous one was. And I believe it's at 2636. So if I click on this, right? First one, that's where it was. Second one, it moves slightly. Can you see that? So let's just move this a little bit more so you can actually see the difference. So the first one was here. Now the second one is here, and the first one just ends over here. So let's just move this to, I think it's 2636. There. So hopefully now you understand what we're trying to achieve, right? But what we need to do is add the end state, right? Because if we want to loop this, we need to make sure that this entire animation will need to go back to 0 within 0 seconds, okay? All right, so hopefully you're following, and we're going to save this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to preview this for you. Whoops, let's just actually go in and let me add some time here. I'll do this over the span of, let's say, 5 seconds, right? Just so you can quickly see one animation happen. So let's go back and let's preview this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Boom, right? So it stops there, right? But remember, we, at this last step, we went from here to here, right? In 0 seconds, it resets itself, right? So when it stopped, you might think that it's the actual second one, but when that stopped, the animation actually reset itself, went back to the start within 0 seconds, and you didn't see that. It's a little trick that we did in here. So if I was to loop this now, because the animation goes from, I don't know how you're gonna see this, but it comes from the left, right, this is the first one, and in the same spot, it resets within 0 seconds, and it's gonna do it again. Boom, 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 right? So we're gonna repeat that. Go here, 50%, 100%, bang, right? Each time it hits that 100%, it resets within 0 seconds, and it continues to loop. So then it creates that illusion that this is forever looping. Okay, so now that you guys are becoming more of a programmer, software engineer, if you appreciate this upskill, make sure to gently smash that like button, guys. Okay, so pretty much we've got that done. That is down pat. All right, so now that the transitions are all done, we need to add some custom CSS to this because Webflow doesn't allow us to create strokes for our text. So what we are going to do is we're gonna head over to our home page, and then head over to home, click on the little cog and go down to the custom code. Now, you might be afraid of writing code, but believe me, you will love writing code once you feel comfortable writing code, as when you practice more writing code. Because when you finally are able to take a design and actually create it and make it into something tangible and real, oh man, it feels so good. So what we're gonna do is open our styles, right? And what we want to do is we want to target the heading. And remember, we gave this heading a class name of heading 1. So to target a class, you go dot heading 1. And if you gave it a ID of heading 1, it would be heading 1. So use the hashtag for IDs and a dot for classes. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to add a stroke to the text. So what we want to do is we want to go ahead and target WebKit, and this is the engine behind Chrome, right? And then we want to go and add a text stroke width of, let's say 2 pixels. And then we also want to add a WebKit text stroke, I think it was color of, let's just say white for now, okay? So once you hit save, nothing will happen. Why do you think nothing happens? Have a think about that. Well, the reason why nothing happens is because we haven't published it and this web page hasn't rendered that style. We've just saved it to Webflow, but the actual page itself, this website, hasn't reloaded. So what we need to do is we need to go ahead and actually publish this to our gently smashed domain. And let's open it up. And you can see that we now have that outline on the text because we've refreshed the page with that styling intact, okay? So what we want to do now is actually change the color of our heading. So heading, and let's make this transparent. So let's go ahead and make it transparent. All right, so it disappears, and this is the reason why I'm doing the styling at the end, so that you can actually see what I'm doing. And I think what we wanted to do was also make sure that that animation was looping, because I saw it stop, because it sort of stopped. And then let's also make sure that the duration is going to last for 60 seconds. Okay, save that, and let's publish it. And let's witness the glory. All right, ready? Boom. Boom. Oh, the letter spacing really does put me off a little bit. So let me just quickly change that up for you guys. So text, letter spacing, let's just use like, maybe like 2 pixels, I don't know. Publish that again. Let's make it a little bit tighter, you know? Boom. So once again, when it comes to creating animations and doing this type of creative stuff in the web development space, you need to think a little bit more creatively, because machines are very, very logical and very, very literal. So then you need to sometimes think outside of the box to really achieve some of these creative effects. Now, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. And because we've hit 10K, I'm gonna be starting to release a lot more different types of videos about freelancing, building businesses, building design agencies, Webflow, code, design, more advanced UX topics as well. Mainly because I believe I've covered a lot of UI stuff already. Now, hopefully you guys enjoy this video, and I will see you in the next video very soon.